Leonora from Coastal Crochet, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to crochet popcorns. This is to accompany week 13 of my Seaside stash busting blanket crochet along that I'm hosting over on my blog and on my Instagram. The links are in the description below. So popcorns add a really nice textured effect to your crochet, and they protrude really well. They are crocheted differently to bubbles. So we did some bubbles earlier on in our blanket. As you can see, there was this row here and there was a row right at the beginning of bubbles. And popcorns are crocheted differently, and they actually are much harder to flatten. They protrude quite a lot, and that is why I've used them in these rows, because they are to resemble pebbles. These are my pebbles on the beach as part of the Seaside theme. Now popcorns can be crocheted next to each other, they can be staggered, they can be used to make all kinds of patterns within crocheted fabric. But as you can see, I've staggered them here like this, and on the first row, the grey row, the popcorns are pushed to the front of the work, and on the second row they are pushed to the back, and I will show you how to crochet them. So here's a small sample of treble stitches. That's US double crochet stitches. Remember, I use UK crochet terminology. And I'm going to work my popcorns in a row of treble stitches. They can be worked in a row of shorter stitches, so double crochet, US single crochet stitches, but the popcorns themselves are made using treble stitches, so they would protrude even more if you worked them in a row of shorter stitches. But for my blanket and for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to crochet them within a row of treble stitches. So we're going to make 3 chain, 1, 2, 3, which counts as the first treble stitch of our popcorn row. And a popcorn is made by crocheting a number of treble stitches all into the same place, and then drawing through the loop from the final stitch through the top of the first stitch. And I'll show you how to do that. And popcorns can be made using 5 stitches or 3 stitches. I'm going to use 4 stitches, and that's what I've done for my blanket too. There's so many possibilities and there's no right or wrongs. So one popcorn is made for 4 treble all in the same stitch, so our next stitch along. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 1 more treble into this same stitch, 4. So I've worked 4 treble all into that same stitch, and all you do now is you remove your hook from the loop and you count back your 4 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and you insert your hook through the top of that 4th stitch back, through both strands as if you were crocheting into it, and then you put your hook into the loop from the last stitch you crocheted, and then all you do is just pull that loop through to the front, and that's your first popcorn worked. Now for my Seaside stash busting blanket, I'm crocheting 3 treble stitches between each popcorn. So then we just do 1 treble in each of the next 3 stitches. That's 1, 2, and that's 3. And now we're going to do our next popcorn. So we're going to do all of the next stitches into the same stitch. That's 4 treble, that's US double crochet, all into the next stitch. Just work them as normal. That's 1 treble stitch, 2 treble stitches, three, and 4. And then we remove our hook from that loop and we count back. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we insert our hook into the top of that stitch under both strands from front to back, and then pop it into that loop from the last stitch crocheted and literally just pull it through to the front. And that's our second popcorn made. So now we're going to do 1 treble in each of the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, and that's 3. And now we're going to do another popcorn. So again, it's 4 treble all into the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remove your hook, count back, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert your hook into the top of that stitch, pop it into the loop from the last stitch worked, and just pull it through to the front. And now we've made 3 popcorns. I've got 2 stitches left on this row, which will be the same as in my Seaside stash busting blanket. We have two stitches left, and remember our last stitch is always that 3 chain made at the end of each row. That counts as our first stitch of the following row. Always a bit tricky to get into those starting chains. And there we go, that's our row of popcorn stitches. Okay, we're now going to do our second row of popcorns. So we're going to make 3 chain, which counts as the first treble stitch of this next row, and I'm going to be staggering my popcorns. So I'm going to be just working 1 treble in each of the next 3 stitches, and you have to be careful when going back along a row of popcorn to crochet into the top of the popcorn so that you don't therefore miss stitches. And as you can see, it's that little V there which you must crochet into. That's the top of your popcorn from the previous row. Okay, and that's what we must be careful not to miss, because that is the stitch from the popcorn below. So that's 1, 2, 3, and so I'm going to be working my popcorns on this second row into the middle stitch between the popcorns from the row below, just so we get that staggered effect. Now, because we're going back along the top row, back along the row of the popcorns just worked, we've now got the back of the work facing us and the front of the work facing away. So these popcorns are now going to be pushed back to which is actually going to be to the right side of the work. So they're crocheted in the same way, but just slightly differently at the end, and I will show you how to do that now. So we've got 4 stitches here, so our first 3 chain, and then 1 treble in each of the next 3 stitches, and we're now going to be doing our popcorn. So again, it's 4 treble all into the same stitch, just like before. So that's 1, 2, 3, one more, 4. But because we want the popcorn to be pushed back, so to the same side as our first popcorns, we remove the hook from the loop as before, count back 1, 2, 3, 4, but instead of inserting your hook like this from front to back as we did in our first row, if you want the popcorn to be pushed back, all we are doing is inserting the hook from the back of the work to the front of the work, like so. So insert the hook from the back to the front, and then just like before, pop that loop on the hook and pull through. And now you've got a popcorn which has been pushed to the back of the work. And so now we're going to do 1 crochet, treble crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, and here we're going to go into that stitch which is above the popcorn from the previous row. Be careful not to miss that. So that's 1, 2, and 1 more. 3. And now we're going to work another popcorn. So it's 4 treble, all into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and because we want the popcorn to be going away from us, which is to the front of our work, count back 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we insert the hook from the back to the front under those 2 strands, pop it back into the loop there and pull through. That's your next popcorn made. And then we'll just carry on to the end of the row. 1, 2, and then 1 crochet to that last stitch. Always tricky to get that top of that stitch there. There we go, there's our last treble of the row. And so on my sample here, I've got 3 popcorns in the first row and 2 in that top row. And if I show you my blanket again, you can see by doing that and staggering the popcorns, you get a really nice staggered effect all the way along, and in the back of the work is looking like so. So I hope you enjoy crocheting your popcorns. Thanks for looking.